What's going on, guys? I had a long day at work, but that's not going to deter me from getting shit done. We are going to be continuing doing the brake pads and rotors on the TSX. And I will be going a little bit more in detail. Since I haven't changed the brake pads, I don't have a dedicated video on how to do those. So I'm going to go a little bit more in detail with this video. If you're coming straight here from the front brake pads, it's a pretty similar situation, but there's a huge difference. One mainly being you're going to need this tool. You can't push back the piston like we did with the front brakes by walking it back with that front brake tool, this little thingy. So yeah, that's going to be one big difference. Everything else should pretty much be the same, but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth for you guys so you have the full knowledge and information for you guys to do it yourself. So let's start off with parts. Now for the front brake pads, I went with Acura, but these are rear brake pads that I didn't change from last time. The original brake pads I had were the front, were the hawk pads in the front, but I saved these because they weren't worn down yet. So I'm going to use these instead. Right now the hawk rear brake pads, part number HB626F.577. And for the rear brake rotors, I went with the Dura International, part number BR900520. Now you don't have to write these down, these are all going to be in the description below, so you guys can always check that out after the video. Alright, now that you have the wheel off, there's going to be a couple of things I'd like to explain. If you've seen the front rotor change, this is going to be pretty similar. These two bolts, which may or may not be compliant, you may have to persuade them to come out, or you can drill them out. I'm probably just going to end up drilling them out just because I had so much trouble with the front, but I can also give it a try. Here is your caliper. This you're going to have to remove two bolts to remove this centerpiece. And then this bracket is what actually attaches to the hub. These are another two bolts that you're going to need to remove, and I'll show you those in a second. The ones that hold the bracket are going to be Loctited, so those are going to be a lot tougher to get off. So just be careful. Don't strip them because that's a bad... Stripping any kind of bolt is always bad. But mainly these two. They're going to be tough, so always expect to have your wrench on there securely. I don't think there's enough room to fit a ratchet, but we will give it a shot and see if it does fit. Alright, I'm going to see if I can fit the camera in here to show you guys the bolts. So right here, this one is what holds the middle part to the bracket. So you have 1 and 2 down there. Now the two bolts that hold this bracket to the hub are back here. Now if you can see this bolt, that's the one that holds the bracket, and then there's another one down there. Once you get this middle piece off, you'll be able to see it more clearly, but 4 bolts are going to need to come off, so I'm going to take those off right now. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to drill these out. I tried using a screwdriver, they wouldn't come out, and we're talking tools. So I have Milwaukee's Cobalt drill bits. You want to have a good drill bit to drill this out because you want it to go in straight and smoothly. So get these. These are by far the best drill bits I've ever used. Don't get the steel ones, don't get the titanium ones. The cobalt ones work best with different kinds of metals. And always wear protection. So as you can see, the threads are still in there. Don't worry. This will just allow you to get the rotor off. So once we get the rotor off, we can unscrew that. Now to take the top 2 bolts that are holding this middle piece in, that hold the brake pads in, it's 12mm. So with those 2 bolts out. Now, before you completely pull this off, you do not want this to dangle just like the front brakes. So maybe have some wire ties hanging ready for you to attach it to. All right, now that you got your caliper out of the way, you got a couple of clips here that you can just take off, and that should release your brake pads. All right, so the brake pads are out. You can already see the caliper is loose. So now you just got to remove these two bolts that are holding this bracket on. So you might just need to do what I just did. Take a wrench and then hammer it. You just want to make sure that all the teeth are on the bolt cleanly, because if they're not, you're going to end up rounding it off, and this is going to turn a hour job into 5 hours. That's just an estimate. So yeah, as you can see, there is a lot of Loctite on this. So you will have some difficulty getting it off, but don't be discouraged. Just keep at it and they'll come off. And now as I'm taking this last bolt out to remove the bracket, let's talk about this little piece here. That's what you needed, that square tool I was showing you in the beginning of the video. And you're gonna have to walk that back manually. So we're gonna put that tool there, which is gonna sit in the ridges, and they're going to basically turn counterclockwise to screw it back in. All right, now with that bolt out, you can remove the bracket. And just like yesterday, you're gonna wanna clean all of this gunk out and grease it up. And now with all of the brakes off, you should be able to remove your brake disc. So that's the old one. You can see all the rust. Yep, definitely need to be replaced. So you're gonna want to take your brake cleaner and clean all of this. And as I said, with that little screw, once the rotor's off, you can now take that off by just clamping it down and turning, and it should come out. And there you go. Okay, so now for the important bit, you're gonna take your cube tool, or I'm not even sure what this is called, but you're gonna have to find which set of indents fit your brake caliper. So I was just looking very quickly at which one was the snuggest, and I like these two. So I'm gonna use that, and basically you get your 3/8 drive, and you should be able to just push it in, and what you're going to do is going to ratchet it and push. As you're pushing it, it should coil back up. Now I see that this boot is like getting a little, giving me a little bit of issue when I turn it. I don't want to rip that boot. So as I'm going, I'm kind of backing off a little bit, fixing it, and then going a little bit more. There you go. As you can see, like I turn it a little bit, turn it back, but now we've kind of hit our stride where it's not getting wrinkled or anything like that. Now, after you've done all that turning, you just want to make sure it lines up, one of these slots line up with this little dimple in your brake pad, just so it can sit flush when you put in the new one. So I went a little bit too far. I'm going to turn it back just a little bit. All right, I think that's it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean off this hub a little bit more, and then we're going to reinstall. Okay, so a quick tip, if you are having trouble getting your old rotors off, once you get them off, a good tip to have is anti-seize. So I'm going to put some anti-seize here, so that will enable me to get the rotor off easier in the future. Okay, now with our nice new rotor, just going to clean this off really quick. And we're gonna put this right back on. So, and then everything else is pretty explanatory. We're gonna put the bracket back on, put these 2 bolts. We're gonna add some Loctite to these bolts to make sure they don't come off again. And then we're gonna remove these sliders, and we're gonna re-grease them. So we'll get back to you in a second.
Star drifters, can you feel that? One love can make us all believers. A generation of renegades, we don't have to stay alone. So brother, sister, can you see our light?
And then just tighten them down slowly, little by little. Make sure your wrench is all the way on. Again, you don't want to strip these. And then at the end, make sure you give it a nice firm push. Because you don't want these coming off, because that's the only thing between you and your caliper. And now that you have your bracket on, you can take out your sliders. And these are the things you're going to want to re-grease. Clean and re-grease. And so what I used, and I didn't get to show this in the front brake pad change, I used a Permatex Ceramic Extreme brake parts lubricant. I use this because these have extreme temperatures. It goes from -degrees Fahrenheit to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and this won't get nearly as hot or cold, but just in case, these I want to be prepared. So you're going to clean this off and then apply the lubricant.
Brother, sister, find your spaceship and let it take you.
And after that, once that's done, you can reinstall your brake pads. I'm going to add the grease that came with it to it, and then put the brake caliper back on. And so that is it. Quick rotor and brake pad change on the 2012 TSX. Take your time with it. It's not a big job, and it's easy to do for an everyday person. This is my first time doing the rear rotors and brake pads on the car. It's got 50,000 miles on it. So if I could do it, you could do it. Again, I will have all the part numbers to all the parts and products I used in this video down below, so you guys can have that. If you guys haven't done your front brake pads and are looking for that video, check out this link here. If you're looking for just the front brake pads, here's another link. Please give me a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed this video, and consider subscribing. Other than that, I will catch you guys on the next video. See ya!